Please welcome, welcome. I'm Pastor Joseph McLeod, and I'm here with my good friends from school. We go way, way back. For those of you who are just joining us, who are seeing us online, we welcome you. We appreciate you coming to join us. As we've mentioned throughout the week and the weeks prior, that we would have a special dialogue, a special discussion. And our discussion is around the idea of what men can do to build the urban community. And so I have with me some wise individuals, wise men of God that I trust have some great insights that they're going to share with us, so that we can sort of brainstorm and with ideas of as to what we can do next to continue to build our community. And so first, I'd just like to introduce some of my friends. As you can see, and brothers, when I call your name, just wave so that those who are watching, they'll know who I'm referring to. And so I have Booker Ferrier. As you can see, he's right next to my image, and me and Booker Ferrier go back a long, long time. We went to the same college. And, actually, all of my friends, we've all gone to the same college we graduated from. And I'm glad that he's with us on the line. Childhood friend, high school friend, all the way up to college and even up to now. So it's been a long time. I also have right beneath me, I have Wayne Brewer, Dr. Wayne Brewer. He's joining us as well. Another college friend of mine. We knew each other from 17. We have Catty Corner, even that 17-year Aubrey Watkins, Dr. Watkins. He's actually joining us. And with his faithfulness to join us, he's even getting the exercise in. So we appreciate his presence. And so he is with us as well. And Vic Terry. Vic is with us. We all went to the same college. And, it's interesting that this pandemic, and there Vic is. He's sort of catty-cornered to me next to Wayne Brewer, as you see, Dr. Wayne, Dr. Brewer. And so we are just glad to have everyone join us. And what I was about to say is this pandemic has forced us to reconnect after years. And, during that time, what we typically do is we get together weekly and we exercise. And so, I thank God for Dr. Wayne Brewer. He actually had the idea of all of us getting together and maintaining our physical health. And we've been able to do that. We've even included a devotional time. I believe Aubrey, Dr. Watkins brought the idea for us to do so. But during that time period, one day we were having a discussion, and the discussion came up regarding what we could do to build the urban community. And so, brothers, having said that, we're going to start our conversation. And there is an idea called Emmanuel. And I know we had discussed this during the time when we were just chatting together after, a workout in the morning. And the concept of Emmanuel we find in the scripture, where Jesus is Emmanuel, meaning God in the flesh. And the idea is that Jesus, who is 100% God, Jesus Christ, he took upon himself flesh and he became a man. And so it was as if he existed first, of course, in heaven. He was in a better place, but then he humbled himself and became a servant in the body of a human and dwelt in Galilee. And it kind of reminded me of, someone who lives in the suburbs, with someone who lives in a place that is even beyond the suburbs, but they make a decision to say, you know what, I'm going to relocate and I'm going to move straight into the hood. I'm going to move into a deprived neighborhood, the ghetto. And, there's the concept of Emmanuel, where I saw in college, there were a number of Christians who were professionals who said, we're going to relocate with our degrees, with our skills into the ghetto. And this was in Pittsburgh, in the Hill District. And they began to redevelop the area. And I thought it was quite interesting. This is something that I saw immediately after college. And so we started to talk about, what are some of the things that we could do as a community of men to reinvest into the urban community to build it up. And so that's the idea. And so I'm just going to go around and kind of get some insight from you all, from our friends who are joining us. And if those of you who are listening, possibly you have some ideas that you'd like to lend to the conversation. And so I'm just going to go, and I'll start with Buddy, my friend Booker. I call him Buddy. That's a childhood name that we go way back with. But Booker, what would you say in regards to what would be some ways, some ideas that men could do to invest and help build the urban community?
Yeah, so one, Pastor McLeod, thank you for having us. Definitely,
yes, it's a pleasure
to speak to you. My career has been supply chain, has been about plan, source, make, deliver, and how we partner with suppliers throughout that process, with a special focus on supplier diversity. And that is trying to connect and advocate and work with diverse-owned businesses, be it African-American owned, Hispanic owned, certain minority classes. And so how do we help build those businesses? Because this economy is driven by small businesses. And there's a significant number of minority-owned businesses throughout the country. And if you think about a way to drive generational wealth, a way to take advantage of or leverage the tax code, right? The tax code is written for business owners and real estate owners. And so if we can find a way to support minority-owned businesses, helps them expand, then get real estate, now you've got a great foundation for minorities to start to build up themselves and build up the communities, and then have that generational wealth, as well as providing employment opportunities and ownership opportunities for those in the community. I would, based off of where my experience has been, and based off of sort of how this economy is generated, I think I would focus on those minority-owned businesses.
Wow, awesome. Yeah, that's powerful. So small businesses or minority-owned businesses, and just that being able to support and recirculate the currency into our own communities, where we have those small businesses and just I love what you said, even to be able to create more employment opportunities amongst our own, and or amongst those who are in those communities. That's great. And it's interesting, sometimes we see that same model practiced in other communities.
Absolutely.
And but it so it would be a great thing that we adopt the same ideas and put it to practice.
Hey, let's be honest. We see that model adopted in our communities. It's just not necessarily us.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. And it's time out that we sow into each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's good. And let's see, I'm gonna swing around in the conversation, and so we're just going to circulate the conversation. And Dr. Brewer, Mr. Wayne Brewer, Dr. Wayne Brewer, a good friend of mine. Once again, everybody on this line is a good friend of mine. And so, Wayne, what would you say, Dr. Brewer? What would you say, just in regards to how we as men, in particular Christian men, could reinvest into the urban community in order to build the community?
Yeah, well, thank you, Pastor McLeod, for bringing us together to have this, really important conversation. I think certainly picking up on what Booker talked about in the area of real estate, I think is tremendous because, again, as Booker alluded to, it's you have people that's from outside of our community coming in to build these communities. But then once they build them so that we leave and that they come in and stay. You know, we need to take people who have gone to college or who have been successfully without college or not, been successful, to have the ability to come together, pull their dollars in, and really work to revitalize these communities ourselves. These are the communities that we came from. And oftentimes we get our degrees or we achieve our success and then we leave. But imagine if all of us, or a good chunk of us, came back and really reinvested in land and really reinvested in some of these infrastructures, really built. And then in turn, you know, make it so that it's affordable for people who look like us to come and rent or own and have those businesses. I think that's the first step. Now, I'll be the first to tell you that real estate is something that I don't have personal experience in. That's not my area of expertise. But the next area that I certainly have to focus on is, as all of you know, is health. I mean, you know, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and we've seen the economic impact that a pandemic does. But even before the pandemic, I mean, just the skyrocketing rates of chronic diseases that rob us of our time, our precious time, and our ability to toil and work hard to be able to achieve a certain degree of wealth, if you will. And also just the fact that when you have that huge impact, that shortening our lifespan and shortening our years of lives lived in a healthy state, more education spent on primary care, you know, and making sure that we really talk to ourselves and talk to among each other, you know, hey, are you getting your checks? Are you getting things? Are you getting looked at? Are you getting screened? You know, I think a lot of times our community, we're afraid to kind of broach and talk about certain subjects because we feel that, well, if we don't know what we don't know, it's not in existence. So really hold each other accountable is, I think, really the key, because the healthier we can be, the more we have the ability to be able to build our communities. We can't build it if we're not healthy. So having conversations and then really lobbying with various businesses to get more primary care in our neighborhoods. I think that's really the key to build success for us in an urban environment. And oftentimes we don't have those resources from a healthcare standpoint.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. And, you know, just hearing the on the economic side of things, what we can do. And I hear just even real estate. One of the things that I alluded to in the very beginning of our discussion was a group of professionals who relocated into a specific community. And one of the things that they did is they started to buy up old dilapidated buildings. They were buying real estate, and then they would rehabilitate those areas. They would even look for certain places that may have been drug infested, you know, houses that, you know, were used for drug purposes, purchase those homes, and they were rehabbing these homes. There's an organization called Habitat for Humanity, and they would even partner with those organizations, and they would bring people in to help actually build the houses, and then bring families in to move into these renewed spaces. And so over a period of time, by virtue of their presence, the landscape of the area started to change. And even economically, with businesses starting to come in, now businesses may feel more comfortable to say, hey, you know what, now I feel like I can do more business here. Maybe because we have more individuals who would want to do business with what we have to offer. And so, you know, on the economic side, you know, I hear what you said, Booker, and what you said, Wayne, just, you know, buying the real estate and having businesses, supporting, you know, minority owned businesses. And then even on the health side of things, that we you know, really have the discussions that we need to have so that we can be healthy physically, because there's a lot of things within the urban community that is unhealthy physically. And, you know, from your standpoint, as someone in the healthcare arena, to consider what we could do to encourage each other. And even those open discussions. I know that, you know, we have had open discussion about receiving the COVID-19 vaccine. And, you know, that was important for me because just like others in the community, I had questions. And it was good to be able to have that open dialogue to say, you know, this is going to impact my physical health. What do you guys say? And you guys were able to weigh in on that. So so that's excellent. That's excellent.
And you know, Mario, like one other thing, I think, going back to the real estate part, and again, you know, it's definitely not my purview from a personal standpoint, but I also think it's really incumbent upon, you know, having a sense of responsibility. So if you get a group that acquires real estate and acquires land, to be responsible in terms of who you in turn do business with and sell it to. So if you try to turn around and make the buck, then you sell it to whatever they look like. But if you're really socially conscious, you think about, okay, you know what, I'm gonna buy this real estate, but in turn, I'm gonna sell it to people who look like me, who I know will come in and help the community, not just take the community resources, but help to build the community. So I think it's really important that you really focus in on who you sell or who you do business with these kind of ventures as well.
That's important. Yeah, yeah. Especially people who are indigenous to those locations, to those communities in the first place, where they're not dislocated and sent out, you know, but they are empowered themselves. And you know, that and then opportunities be made available for them to experience a different lifestyle. That's great. That's good. And all right, so we're gonna move on to the discussion to Mr. Vic Terry. And Vic, what would you say from your experience and from, you know, the wisdom that you also have, what we could do as men to build the urban community?
Great question. Well, Pastor Mario, I appreciate you inviting me to be a part of this forum here. Iron sharpens iron. And, you know, we talk about this in our small group. As Mario mentioned, we meet 3 times a week. And one of the things we talk about in one of our weekly devotions is having the total complete man. All right. I got this blessing from my grandmother. And she told me, she said, the complete total man in Christ is spiritual, mental, physical, and financial. There are four pillars to the stool. And it's our job, our stewardship to develop all 3 legs of the stool. Right.
Yeah.
So I was just jotting down some notes, some great comments by brothers in the group. So I like to look at it from a micro level and a macro level, right? So on the micro level, it's one African-American at a time, one individual at a time, right? On the micro level. So you say, well, how can we build individuals one at a time? First is giving people guidance and direction, right? The Bible says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. So I talk to so many young people and they just have no idea. Like, I don't know what I want to do, right? So first thing, we got to get people direction, focus. And then there's a difference between your career and your calling. So from a Christian perspective, we're all called to spread the good news and spread the gospel. So that's what we're called to do, right?
Yes.
But simultaneously, we need to work on our career, our vocation, right? So one of the things that I'm involved with here, I'm a native New Yorker, come from New York like Wayne. My mom was in New York and my dad was in Queens, divorced kid back and forth. But one of the things that I've seen, and I think it's what's helped develop and nurture people, is give them direction for a career path. Like, what is it you want to do, right? Right now I live right outside New Haven, Connecticut. And I'm involved. Actually, I invited him. I'm involved with a pastor here in Connecticut. He runs a nonprofit. It's called I Care Ministries. And I'll show you the flyer. This is the flyer that we give out right here, I Care Ministries, right? And what we do on this I Care Ministries, what we do is it's a 4-legged approach, very similar. So we focus on life skills, money management, relationships, and job skills, job training. Let me see something if I can share real quick here.
That's great.
I'll share right here. I don't know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen or not?
Not yet.
Okay. Hold on a second here.
I like that holistic idea. That's great. How to holistically enhance and minister to the need of a person, just, you know, in all of those areas. I like that.
Correct. So I'm having a little issues here because I'm not familiar with this platform. But anyway, so I think on the micro level is you develop and nurture individuals one at a time, right? Job training. And in this program that I'm with on iCare, what we do is we go out and we give out these flyers, and then we invite them to come into these job training seminars. We give them life skills, right? How to manage your money, career vocation. And everyone doesn't have to go to school and get a 4-year degree, but you do need some direction and training on what it is you want to do so you can contribute to society. And then on the macro level, I think, once you help individuals build up their self-esteem, they've got goal, they've got direction, they have some sort of skills, they can apply that. And then they can say, okay, I want to be a salesperson, or I want to be, I want to be a professional. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a doctor, whatever it is, giving them that guidance to develop those skills. And then we're talking about reinvesting in the community. So we can invest twofold: small businesses, SMBs, what we've talked about. SMBs are the engine that power this economy to begin with. So we get individuals, you can say, I want to be a proprietor. I want to be an owner. I want to own and operate my own business. That's a route. It's a heavy lift. You got to know what you're doing, but you can say, I want to start my own business in the African-American community, or you could say, which is the more traditional route, I want to join a corporation and have the security of health insurance and benefits and a steady paycheck. But either way, figuring out what your career is, simultaneously developing your calling. And I think particularly as Christian men, if you can get those two tracks going on at the same time within the African American community, we can build one brick at a time.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. So I like the idea of what I heard, was a mentorship or coaching, where you take an individual, one person at a time. And the Bible, has spoken about mentorship and coaching. Only they use the term in the scripture, discipleship. And that's the Great Commission that we find where Jesus says, go and make disciples. It didn't say go and make converts, but go and make disciples of every nation, teaching them to obey all that I've commanded you. And lo, I'll be with you always, even to the end of the age. And discipleship definitely deals with the spirit aspect of a person, but it also deals with the other areas, even what they're called to do. Even what they're called to do. And that's awesome. Even again, in Matthew 28, it's verse 19 and 20, the Great Commission. And so, I like that idea of saying, you know what? And I had this conversation with my brother the other day, and, possibly, one of these days he'll join the conversation. But he had expressed the thought that sometimes when you look in the urban community, things can seem so bleak. It may seem like so many negative things are happening at the same time. What difference does it make? And I thought about this story of this man he saw this little boy on the beach, and it was early in the morning. Nobody was around, and he saw this little boy throwing something like he was throwing a boomerang. He was grabbing something and throwing it like a boomerang into the beach or into the water. And as he got closer to this boy, he saw this little boy was grabbing starfish that were scattered all over the beach. And the old man said, just leave it alone. You're not going to make a difference. And so the little boy turned to the old man and said, watch this. And he reached down, grabbed a starfish amongst the many, hurled it into the water like a boomerang. And he said, I made a difference for that one. And so, Vic, what you've just described is, at that smaller level, connecting with one individual at a time, and then expanding that reach to be able to continue to go beyond that and impact the community. That's awesome. And so we're going to move up to Dr. Aubrey Watkins. I think you still may be with us. I saw you pop on the screen there, my brother. And if you, all right. And so if you have an idea, and see, you know what, he's holding with the theme for those of you who are seeing of health and wellness. And he's one of the brothers who is definitely, in it to win it. He is showing us by even example how to stay healthy, how to stay on top of, not only keeping our lives together spiritually and in all other ways, even in the area of finances, but even in the area where you have to maintain your body. So we appreciate you, Dr. Watkins, for joining us. And so what would you say? How could we as men work to impact and build the urban community?
Yes, it's a great question, Pastor McLeod, long-term buddy, just like everybody else on the call here. And
yes,
it began, the sentiment for all of this, it began way before where we find ourselves today. And I take, for the folks on the line, I take something from each and every one of these brothers here and now, and it's a blessing to be amongst them, right? Because we really are stronger together. And all the things that we go off and do when we talk about community, it's one thing to speak about community, it's another thing to be about community. But in your own little microcosm, to begin with, if you aren't communal and you aren't interacting, how could you possibly go out and save the world? So the things that we've been able to do, simply exercising together 3 times in the morning and having a devotional, feeds my spirit in ways that you couldn't imagine. And all the things that I dream about, all the lofty things that we dream about, what we can do for the Black community, the African-American community, being rooted in spiritual brothers and spiritual brotherhood, really begins there. And so that's what I'd like to really say. Now, for me, I've grown up like my buddy Wayne here in healthcare, really started down the path that I'm on now as a professional back in college when my sister died. Those of us African-American are familiar with sickle cell anemia. I lost a sister at a pretty young age. But before that, I had the big dreams. I was going to go and be a lawyer, fight social injustice, start companies, and be philanthropic. And what I found out through my journey, and this is how funny life is, you never know which way things are going to go. You just apply yourself and you keep pressing. But we are still pretty much on target for that. But what I learned was life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. There were issues, there was discrimination, there were all sorts of things that Booker alluded to that we were excluded from. And that was good health and good health care. But what you come to find out is good health and good health care is also an industry. It's also a business. And those of us who kick around these nice terms called STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and who have spent a career in it, find out that we are yet and still today very much excluded from one of the industries that is always touted as the thing that's going to change the world, be the focal point for economic development. And I think that's where we really coincide today. From an economic development standpoint, I always dreamt of having a glass building filled up with brothers like the brothers on this call here, walking around, kids in North Philadelphia, Southeast DC, Brooklyn, you name it, being able to walk outside and just look and see brothers at work, right? In the community, in yesteryear, days of old, community, we were all together living amongst one another. And while things may have changed and transformed to some extent these days, we're together now virtually. So there's many ways we can come together. One would be physically, and certainly the real estate and having a presence in our communities. But those of us who have gone off and been fortunate enough and lucky enough to be where we are, have a responsibility to be what I call cupbearers. Nehemiah, being one of my favorite characters in the Bible, sat next to the king, was a bit privileged, had a decent life, but didn't forget about where he came from. And I think it's incumbent upon Pastor McLeod, the way you open the store and those brothers that went back into the Hill District in Pittsburgh, it's our time. It's our time. It's our generation's time to carry that mantle and understand that we wouldn't even be here having this conversation were it not for people before us who might not have had the opportunity to get college degrees, but they certainly had that spirit and spirituality about themselves that are now allowing us to have this conversation. So that's what roots me. That's what grounds me. And it doesn't matter what you amass or what you acquire. As we understand, God put us here, and our purpose is to make sure people know Him. And how they know Him will be through what we do. And so what we do going forward for me has a tremendous grounding in you have laid here for this conversation.
Hey, Dr. Watkins, could you repeat that last statement? It kind of broke up a little.
You know, I think in terms of where we go next, you know, we continue to do this. And indeed. And I said, that's, you know, thankfully, the forum and the opportunity that you provided here now continues to build on what it is folks have done.
Yep. All right. I think we might have had a little interference with Dr. Aubrey Watkins. And, you know, I just want to comment on some of the things that he said, and he'll probably be rejoining in just a minute. Just an idea that he mentioned about you be what you see, and how it would be a wonderful thing that the youth in the urban community seeing men in their community going to work. And it just reminds me of the statement, you be what you see. And what would life be like in our community if all young males who live in the urban community saw someone who was a doctor, who looked like them, someone who was a lawyer, someone who was a physical therapist, you know, someone who was an educator, someone in all of these various areas. All right, welcome back, Dr. Watkins. And we're just commenting on the comment that you mentioned, just about being an example to even the youth in the community. And I made a mention of you be what you see. But I also think about the reality that at one point within the urban community, when you had the doctors, the lawyers, the judges, the teachers, the pastors, all of those, and even the workers who were responsible for cleaning the streets, and the workers who were building buildings, all of these individuals, they lived in the same neighborhood. But at some point in our experience in the urban community, many of those individuals left when things shifted with desegregation. And it created a leadership vacuum that whenever you have a vacuum, it gets filled sooner or later. But unfortunately, that leadership vacuum may not have always been filled with the right type of leadership. And so now we see it where what would life be like if, you know, we had those same types of individuals going back on a mission to do, just like you said, Dr. Watkins, be that example where, you know, a young male in the urban community could see someone that looks like them going to work. And where are they going to work? They're not going to work necessarily on the street corner. They're going to work because they're going into a hospital. They have a stethoscope around their neck. They're going to work because they're going into a school, possibly being a principal or a teacher. They're going to work because they're building homes, or they're doing all of these positive things, and they see that. And then that gives them an idea and a model for their life to follow. So I appreciate those comments. And we also have our wonderful friend as well. We have Jeff Evans, and we appreciate Jeff. He's one of our friends from Pitt. He's also one of the brothers that gets together with us on our, I guess it's, we work out 3 times a week for the most part, and he joins us in the morning. But Brother Jeff has some wisdom as well. We often, at the end of our workouts, have some great conversations. It's good to have you, Mr. Evans, join us. And so what we've been discussing, again, and I'll pass the mic to you next, is how can men consider ways to build the urban community? And so far, we've talked about how we can build economically, you know, how we can build even considering areas physically, our physical health, how we can build even to some degree, even dealing with our spiritual side, you know, discipling one another. And Brother Vic mentioned that. And then how we can build in terms of leadership. What would you say, and Brother Aubrey mentioned about the leadership portion and how we can be that example. And so, Jeff, what would you say, in addition to the conversation, we could do as men to build the urban community?
Hey, I thank you for welcoming me, and sorry for my tardiness. I had some things I had to do earlier today. Hello, gentlemen. Hello, crowd.
Hey, that's all right. Good to have you, my brother.
Yes, good to be had. One of the things that I think we can deal with as Black men is staying home, being with our kids, raising our kids, helping our significant others. If you're not married, doesn't matter. Just be with your kids because your kids need you. And that is something, as myself growing up in a single parent household with my mother put me in a lot of different activities, you know, and I learned through Boy Scouts, Little League Baseball, Colt League. I mean, different activities that she had me in that taught me some things about young adulthood, manhood. My mother, I mean, she couldn't teach me, you know, how to be a man, but she knew how to put me in a position to learn from men. And that is something that I think is very needed right now. The parents is first and foremost the driving force in a young man's life, young daughter's life, a young man's life. That's where you get your manners from. That's where you get your discipline from. That's where you learn how to respect authority from. So it starts at the home first, and then from there on, you have your education, where it falls back to the parents again. The parents got to be part of the educational process, pushing your kids to a higher standard. You know, one thing that I learned about, I know being in Pittsburgh, I went to a very good high school. It's not there no more, called Shenley High School. In that school, I learned how to, and they don't have them in these schools no more. And I know, guys, you probably remember this, had home ec. I learned how to sew. I learned how to use a sewing machine. I was in metal shop. I learned how to solder, different metals together. I learned how to work a lathe. I learned how to use carpentry equipment, electrical saw, electronics. But then the school transitioned to a MATIC program where they specialized in specialized learning, which I went into high technology. Whereas you learn how to build things, learn how to put transistors together. But I say this because not everybody can gravitate toward the educational. You could gravitate toward the laborer portion, learning how to be an electrician, learning how to be a carpenter, learning how to be a plumber. These are things that are needed very much in our community, and these are things that lead to entrepreneurship. And also, you can provide another brother or sister with a job. You know, that right there. One of the things that I've been kind of like on the side writing some notes down, writing ideas down. I would love to start a school, and it's mainly for people that may not have that college in their life, or may want to pursue education, but they might want to pursue learning how to be an electrician, learning how to be a carpenter, learning how to be a plumber, things that nature. That is needed in the community. And
yes, it is.
You know, it's just like fishing. You teach somebody to fish, they can learn how to make money. They'll learn how to, feed their family. I feel as though if I can get a group of professionals, maybe retired electricians, retired carpenters, retired crane operators, which that's what I am. I had transitioned. I have a degree in communications, minor in Africana studies, but the job market took me elsewhere. So I had to adapt, and I basically stayed where I was at, and I grew, and I ended up being a crane operator, pulling containers off ships. It was a good living. It's a very good living, and the main thing is you want to feed your family. You want to worry about benefits, your pension, your annuity. I mean, these are things that matter. But I believe that a way to get young Black men involved off the street begins at first in the home. And then if they don't have that support system in the home, then you have the mentors in the church, the YMCAs, the local PALs, the local block captains. We have to you know, if we see somebody in the street, like I know me, if I'm walking down the street, if I'm up Broad and say Broad and Erie, and I'm walking, I see a group of young black men standing around, you know, shooting it up. I'll walk through the crowd. I'll walk through the crowd. Hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Right. Because you can't let them know that you're intimidated by them. They won't respect you. They won't listen to anything that you say. But when you look up their eyes, say, hey, what's up? Hey, bro, how you doing? Hey, what's up? Hey, you know, hey, I saw you on Versus commenting last night. Yeah, I like Mr. Big Style too, you know, things of that nature. Then, oh, okay, this guy, hey, old head. That's what I'm old head now. Hey, old head. What you know about Versus? What you know about IG? Oh, boy, I'm glad you asked. Conversation entails then you can start talking, you know, see where their head is at. Say, hey, look, if you need a job or you know anybody need a job, hey, come down to the waterfront, come down to such and such place. You can see this person, and they can help you out, fill out this form, and then you can learn this trade or what have you. That opens up the door. Maybe somebody you're just dropping a seed, but hey, somebody in that crowd is going to pick up that seed and run with it. And if I can get just one person, person out that maybe crowd of 15 or 30 that's going to latch on to that, that's what I'm talking. I got them.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that idea about, you know, the trade school. And oh, by the way, I remember the first time I was called an old head, so I can relate. I think we all can relate now. But that's awesome that, you know, yes, there are various career paths and even the area of trade, you know, where you have plumbers, you have electricians, you have those who are carpenters, those who are builders. We need individuals in the community, the very ones that will help build our infrastructure. We need those individuals to gain the training, to gain the skills. Even with the technology, you have individuals who are, you know, learning how to do all of the new technological stuff, you know, that they be trained. And there's a place for men and women from the urban community to tap into those careers. And the other thing you said, Jeff, that was very critical was that we focus also on building the family. And so
that is very much key.
And that key component where, you know, the foundation of every society starts with the family. And then you grow from there. You go from the family to the neighborhood, to the community and beyond. But it starts with the family. And when we have strong families and we support the families with the things that the family needs to not only be able to thrive and survive, or I should say, survive and thrive, because we don't just want to be in survival mode. We want to get to the place where we're thriving economically, but even in relationship with each other, that, you know, we're working to encourage the family, and that's critical. And Vic mentioned something even similar, where, you know, a forward tiered response to deal with the relationship aspect of those in our community. Where there's relational breakdown, you know, there needs to be someone or something in place to help encourage relationships to stay together, to stay strong. And then even economically, you know, how can we mentor those who are coming up behind us to plug into, you know, different economic opportunities? That's excellent.
That's excellent. Hey, Mario, real quick.
Yes.
Just kind of piggyback on that. So as we were saying earlier, right, it's the career and the calling. So we've identified everyone has a calling as a Christian to spread the good news. That's your calling. Yes. Right? Those are your marching orders. But for the career, so I have friends. I have a friend that's in HVAC. I have a friend that's a plumber, and I have a friend that is an electrician. None of them have college degrees, and all of them make over six figures, right? So we got to get out of this mode that the model I have to go through is a 4-year degree, come out lassoed in debt, and then have this bachelor's degree and still don't know what I'm going to do with it.
Exactly.
Right.
So this is where people need to figure out, first of all, you're going to spend the majority of your waking hours you're going to spend at work. So it behooves you to do something you like doing, right? Pick out something you like doing. If you're a trade guy, you're skillful with your hands, pick out a trade where you can use your hands and your mind, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, it could be electrician, it could be a plumber, it could be HVAC, who knows? And then get that job skills training and then apply it. And then this is how we build the bricks one at a time, right? And then after you get that, then you say, you know what? I've got it under my belt. Maybe I can start my own business. I can become my own electrician, start my own small business. But again, it's figuring out what you want to do for your career and then get the life skills so you can manage that holistically.
Exactly.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yes.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yep. You know, I remember hearing a message about the kingdom of God, and you know, the speaker broke down 7 categories that is critical for a society to redeem back to God's original intent and purpose. And one of those areas, of course, is religion, our faith, you know, where we can disciple others into a relationship, a saving relationship with Jesus Christ. And so we get that part when it comes to the church. But then also the other areas, and we discussed it tonight, is the area of our economy, being able to redeem the economy in a way that's productive, in a way that not only enhances our own personal life, but even builds the community. Another third way was how we can invest in the community or invest in each other in terms of not just discipleship, but even educationally. And Jeff, you mentioned something that one day you would even like to see a school, or you have a desire to have something in place that educates, you know, individuals who would be interested in having some type of trade skill training. And that's awesome. And then even, you know, Vic, you mentioned even about, you know, that tier of helping young people discover what is their call, what is the very thing that they have the knack to do, and have education to be very practical, that it's not just head knowledge. You just don't get a degree, but it's something that you can, you know, translate into a job, translate it into something that's going to generate income. The other area of redeeming a community back to God is also in the area of politics. And I know we haven't necessarily mentioned that. We heard some great things. We also, and before I even say that, even in the area of health and technology. And I know, Wayne, you mentioned some awesome things about what we can do in the area of health. And Buddy Booker, you mentioned some things even in the area of acquiring real estate. And that falls under that category of our economic system. And Dr. Watkins Aubrey, you mentioned some things about even discipleship and being that example. But then even in the area politically, you know, what we can do. And one thing that comes to mind is being involved in some level in the political process, where if it's simply getting out to vote, and because there's power, there's power in our ability to support each other. Even, Buddy, as you mentioned, supporting Black-owned businesses, there's power to do that. But even supporting those who have concepts or ideas to build up the community, like we're discussing, to say, who are those individuals who feel the same way that we feel, that, you know, the policies that they would be interested in promoting resonates with what we're trying to do to build the community, put in our votes in their direction. And so just thinking of different ways that we can impact the community. And brothers, this has been an awesome discussion. I know that there's probably some other things that we could continue to talk about. And I know that we're approaching the end of our time, and we could always reschedule to do this again. And but first, brothers, I want to just thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on this line, this call, so that we could weigh in on how men can build the urban community. And just to let those know who are watching, we will be rebroadcasting this this discussion. And so if you know of anyone that could benefit from this discussion, we'd ask that you would let them know, tag and share, encourage others to listen in. And then also just in regards to Healing Fire Deliverance Ministries, we also have a time in which we will pray for individuals who need special prayer. We're doing that on Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We encourage you to come out and get some prayer. And then, of course, on Sunday, we have our Sunday morning service at 10:30. And so come out and join us. But brothers, once again, I just appreciate you. These are my friends. For those of you who are watching, and I am godly proud of all of them. And I could say this, we've encouraged each other, and as iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. And I've definitely been sharpened by all of you brothers, and I love you guys. I appreciate and thank you again for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Likewise, Mary. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, brother.
And for the audience, don't believe the lie. One person can make a difference. One.
Yes.
So you be the one.
That is true.
You be the one.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I appreciate that. Appreciate one person can make a difference. And I like that the idea. One can set 1,000 to flight. Two can set 10,000 to flight. And so when we come together and we join our efforts together, we can make a huge difference. And even my wife is showing me a fist, and I appreciate that, honey. That one finger is powerful, but to come together as a group like a fist, we can really make a dent, a big difference in what may seem like something that is overwhelming. And so thank you again, my brothers, for joining us tonight. And for those of you who are joining us, we bid you well. Thank you for coming out and joining us again. And so thank you, buddy, Mr. Booker Farrier. Thank you, Mr. Vic Terry, Mr. Jeff Evans, Dr. Wayne Brewer, Dr. Aubrey Watkins. We just appreciate you guys once again, and you all be blessed tonight. Amen.
Amen.
Take care, man.
All right.
All right. You guys take care.
Good night.